The morphine drip couldn't dull the sharp sting of betrayal when I saw my wife's divorce attorney stride through my hospital room door at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after my near-fatal car accident. "Mr. David Chen," the silver-haired lawyer announced, adjusting his $3,000 suit as he approached my bed, where I lay connected to monitors and IV lines. "I'm Richard Hawthorne, representing your wife, Sarah, in divorce proceedings. I'm here to discuss the terms of your separation." I blinked through the medication haze, my ribs screaming with each breath from the 3 fractures I'd sustained when the drunk driver T-boned my Tesla. "Divorce? What are you talking about?" Sarah was just here yesterday, crying, saying she was scared she'd lose me. Hawthorne's cold smile revealed perfectly veneered teeth. "Mrs. Chen has had time to reconsider the viability of your marriage. She's prepared to be generous. 60% of marital assets, the house, and your software company's intellectual property rights. In exchange, she won't contest your responsibility for the accident." "My responsibility?" The heart monitor's beeping accelerated. "I was hit by a drunk driver. The police report clearly states, police reports can be interpreted differently in civil court." Hawthorne interrupted, placing a thick manila folder on my bedside table, "especially when witnesses come forward with different accounts. Mrs. Chen wouldn't want you to face additional legal troubles while recovering. Sign these papers, Mr. Chen. It's the smart play." For 15 years, I'd built Chen Digital Solutions from a garage startup into a $50 million cybersecurity firm. Sarah had been my college sweetheart, my business partner, my everything. We'd weathered every storm together, or so I thought. "I need time to think," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "You have 48 hours, Hawthorne said, checking his Rolex. "After that, Mrs. Chen's generosity expires. I suggest you consider your limited options carefully." As the door clicked shut behind him, I stared at the ceiling tiles, my mind racing despite the pain medication. Something was terribly wrong. Sarah had access to our joint accounts, knew every detail of our business operations, and had been acting strange for months, working late, taking mysterious phone calls, being defensive about her phone. The nurse, Maria Santos, entered to check my vitals. She'd been taking care of me since the accident, and I'd grown to trust her warm, professional demeanor. "Rough visitor?" she asked, noting my elevated heart rate. "You could say that." I studied her kind face. "Maria, I need to ask you something important. When my wife was here yesterday, did she seem upset, worried about my condition?" Maria hesitated, then glanced toward the door. "Mr. Chen, I probably shouldn't say this, but she spent most of her visit on her phone in the hallway. And when Dr. Peterson explained your prognosis, that you'd make a full recovery, she didn't look relieved. She looked disappointed." The words hit me like a second collision. "Disappointed? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. But you seem like such a good man. And after 23 years in this job, you learn to read people." After Maria left, I lay in the darkness, pieces of a horrifying puzzle beginning to form in my mind. The accident happened just 2 blocks from Sarah's yoga class, a class I'd discovered didn't exist when I'd tried to surprise her with flowers last month. Her insistence that I take the Woodland Avenue route home that night, even though traffic was always heavier there. Her suggestion that I have just one more drink at dinner before driving. But I was missing something crucial. I needed proof, not just suspicions. That's when I remembered the blood work. Dr. Elena Peterson arrived for morning rounds at 7:30 a.m., her usual time. As the head of emergency medicine at Portland General, she'd seen it all, but she'd taken a particular interest in my case. "How are we feeling today, David?" she asked, reviewing my chart. "Doctor, I need to ask you about my blood work from the night of the accident." She looked up, her expression cautious. "What specifically?" "Everything. Toxicology, blood alcohol, the works. I need copies of all my test results." "That's unusual. Most patients don't request." "Please." I met her eyes. "It's important. Legally important." Dr. Peterson studied me for a long moment. "David, your blood work was interesting. Your BAC was 0.12, well above the legal limit. But there were other substances present that didn't match your dinner receipts or medical history." My blood ran cold. "What kind of substances?" "Lorazepam, a significant amount. It's a benzodiazepine that causes drowsiness, confusion, impaired motor control. Combined with alcohol, it can be extremely dangerous, especially while driving." "I don't take any medication like that. I've never even heard of it." "I know. That's why I flagged it in my report. Someone would have had to slip it to you, probably in a drink. The timing suggests it was administered about an hour before the accident." The room started spinning, and not from the medication. "Doctor, I need those test results. All of them. And I need them now." She hesitated. "David, if someone deliberately drugged you, causing you to crash, that's attempted murder. Are you sure you want to go down this road?" "I'm absolutely sure." 30 minutes later, I held the damning evidence in my hands. The toxicology report clearly showed lorazepam levels consistent with someone slipping me 2 to 3 milligrams in my wine. Sarah's wine recommendation at dinner. The same dinner where she'd insisted we go to Romano's, the place with the dim lighting where she could easily tamper with my drink when I'd gone to the restroom. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "Heard the lawyer visited. Hope you're being reasonable. I just want what's fair." I stared at that heart emoji, the same one she'd used in thousands of messages over our 15-year marriage. Now it looked like a dagger. My fingers moved across the phone's keyboard. "We need to talk. Come by this afternoon." Her response was immediate. "Can't today. Busy with the arrangements. Just sign the papers, David. It's better this way." Arrangements. What kind of arrangements did someone make when their husband was fighting for his life in the hospital? I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. Marcus Webb had been my roommate at MIT and was now a criminal defense attorney with a reputation for dismantling supposedly airtight cases. If anyone could help me navigate this nightmare, it was him. "Jesus Christ, David," Marcus said when I called him an hour later. "Are you telling me your wife tried to kill you?" "I'm telling you someone drugged me with lorazepam. I was hit by a drunk driver, exactly where my wife suggested I drive. And now her lawyer is trying to strong-arm me into signing away everything I've built while I'm barely conscious in a hospital bed." Silence on the other end. Then, "Don't sign anything. Don't say anything to anyone. I'm catching the next flight from Seattle. And David, hide those test results. If I'm right about what's happening here, those papers are the only thing standing between you and a murder charge." "A murder charge? Marcus, I'm the victim here." "Are you? Think about it. You were driving drunk and drugged. You could have killed innocent people. If Sarah's lawyer is smart, and Hawthorne is very smart, He's going to flip this narrative. You're not the victim of attempted murder. You're a reckless drunk driver who endangered public safety. Sarah's not a scheming would-be murderer. She's the long-suffering wife of an alcoholic who finally had enough. The pieces clicked into place with terrifying clarity. She's been building this narrative for months. I'd bet money on it. The question is, why now? What changed that made her want you dead or destroyed? I thought about our company, our assets, our life together. Then it hit me like a freight train. The Hartwell Industries contract. We signed it 3 months ago. $50 million over 5 years. And if something happens to me... She inherits everything, Marcus finished. David, we're not just talking about divorce anymore. We're talking about a premeditated murder conspiracy that almost worked. After I hung up, I lay in the hospital bed, staring at the test results that proved my wife had tried to kill me. But I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a man with evidence, allies, and a plan. Sarah had no idea what was coming. Marcus arrived at Portland General at 11:30 p.m., looking like he'd stepped off a magazine cover despite the red-eye flight. At 6 feet 2 inches, with steel-gray eyes and a Harvard law pedigree, he was exactly the kind of attorney who made opposing counsel nervous. "Show me everything," he said, pulling up a chair beside my bed. I handed him the toxicology report, the divorce papers, and a timeline I'd constructed of Sarah's behavior over the past 6 months. Marcus read in silence, occasionally making notes on his legal pad. "This is good, but it's not enough," he said finally. "We need to prove premeditation and opportunity. The toxicology report shows you were drugged, but a smart defense attorney could argue you took it yourself. Maybe for anxiety, maybe as part of a suicide attempt." "That's insane. I would never..." "I know that. You know that. But juries don't know that. We need to build an airtight case that shows systematic planning and deliberate intent." Marcus pulled out his laptop and began typing. "I'm going to need you to think back over the past 6 months. Every unusual conversation, every change in routine, every time Sarah suggested something that seemed out of character. We're going to build a timeline that shows this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision." Over the next 3 hours, we constructed a devastating chronology. March 15th. Sarah suggested I update my will and life insurance policies, claiming her yoga instructor had mentioned the importance of estate planning. April 3rd. She started working late twice a week, claiming new clients at her marketing firm. When I offered to bring her dinner, she said the office building was locked after hours. April 18th. Sarah began suggesting I take different routes home, always claiming she'd heard about traffic or construction on my usual paths. May 2nd. She encouraged me to have drinks at business dinners, saying I was too uptight and needed to relax more. This was completely opposite to her previous concerns about my alcohol consumption. May 20th. Sarah insisted we switch to joint life insurance policies with double indemnity clauses for accidental death. June 10th. She started mentioning problems in our marriage to friends, planting seeds about my supposed drinking and erratic behavior. "Jesus," Marcus muttered as we compiled the evidence. "She's been planning this for months. This isn't crime of passion. It's first-degree attempted murder with insurance fraud." "But we still can't prove she drugged me," I pointed out. Marcus smiled grimly. "Actually, we can. Sarah made one crucial mistake. He pulled up security camera footage on his laptop, feeds from Romano's restaurant that his investigator had obtained that morning. "Watch this," he said, pointing to a timestamp showing 8:47 p.m. on the night of my accident. On the grainy footage, I could see Sarah and me at our usual corner table. At 8:52, I got up and walked toward the restroom. The camera clearly showed Sarah looking around nervously, then reaching into her purse and dropping something into my wine glass. "She kept the empty lorazepam bottle," Marcus continued. "My investigator found it in her car's glove compartment this morning. Still has her fingerprints and the prescription number." "How did you—" "Sarah's been staying at her sister's house since the accident. Her car was parked on the street. Perfectly legal to photograph evidence in plain sight through a car window." But Marcus wasn't done. He pulled up bank records, credit card statements, and phone logs that painted an increasingly damning picture. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a series of calls between Sarah and Richard Hawthorne. "They've been in contact for 3 months, long before any divorce proceedings. And here's the kicker." He showed me a series of payments from our joint business account to a private investigator named Jake Morrison. "Sarah hired a PI to follow you, document your routines, and identify the best opportunities for an accident. She paid him $15,000 to map out your daily routes and identify the most dangerous intersections. That's impossible. I would have noticed withdrawals like that. She used the petty cash account for office supplies, small amounts over time, coded as marketing expenses. Very clever." The evidence was overwhelming, but Marcus saved the best for last. "David, I need to ask you something important. Did Sarah ever mention knowing Tommy Rodriguez?" I frowned. Should I know that name? "He's the drunk driver who hit you, and according to his cell phone records, Sarah called him 47 minutes before your accident." The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of my heart monitor. "Are you telling me—" "I'm telling you this wasn't a random accident. Sarah hired Rodriguez to hit you at a specific intersection at a specific time. She drugged you to ensure you'd be impaired and unable to react quickly. She even chose the spot. That intersection has a history of fatal accidents, and she knew the timing of the traffic lights. But Rodriguez was drunk. How could she control? She couldn't control his blood alcohol level, but she could control his location and timing. Rodriguez is a regular at Mickey's Bar, 3 blocks from the intersection. Sarah called him, probably offering money for a simple job, maybe just to scare you or cause a minor fender bender. But Rodriguez was drunk, and physics took over. I stared at the evidence spread across my bedside table. Bank records, phone logs, prescription bottles, security footage, a complete blueprint for murder. "Marcus, she really tried to kill me." "She tried to kill you and make it look like your own fault. If this had worked, you'd be dead. She'd inherit everything, collect the insurance money, and everyone would remember her as the grieving widow of a reckless, drunk driver." "What do we do now?" Marcus gathered the papers and closed his laptop. "Now? Now we give Sarah exactly what she's asking for. We're going to let her think she's won, right up until the moment we destroy her." "I don't understand." "Sarah's expecting you to fight the divorce, to contest the asset division, to make this messy and public. Instead, we're going to agree to everything. Sign the papers, give her the money, let her think she's gotten away with attempted murder." "Are you insane?" I'm not giving her. David, trust me. Sarah's about to make the biggest mistake of her life. And when she does, we're going to be ready. I'm telling you this wasn't a random accident. Sarah hired Rodriguez to hit you at a specific intersection at a specific time. She drugged you to ensure you'd be impaired and unable to react quickly. She even chose the spot. That intersection has a history of fatal accidents, and she knew the timing of the traffic lights. But Rodriguez was drunk. How could she control? She couldn't control his blood alcohol level, but she could control his location and timing. Rodriguez is a regular at Mickey's bar, 3 blocks from the intersection. Sarah called him, probably offering money for a simple job, maybe just to scare you or cause a minor fender bender. But Rodriguez was drunk, and physics took over. I stared at the evidence spread across my bedside table. Bank records, phone logs, prescription bottles, security footage, a complete blueprint for murder. Marcus, she really tried to kill me. She tried to kill you and make it look like your own fault. If this had worked, you'd be dead, she'd inherit everything, collect the insurance money, and everyone would remember her as the grieving widow of a reckless, drunk driver. What do we do now? Marcus gathered the papers and closed his laptop. Now we give Sarah exactly what she's asking for. We're going to let her think she's won, right up until the moment we destroy her. I don't understand. Sarah's expecting you to fight the divorce, to contest the asset division, to make this messy and public. Instead, we're going to agree to everything, sign the papers, give her the money, let her think she's gotten away with attempted murder. Are you insane? I'm not giving her. David, trust me. Sarah's about to make the biggest mistake of her life. And when she does, we're going to be ready. Marcus's plan was elegantly simple and devastatingly effective. We would use Sarah's greed and arrogance against her. Sarah thinks she's dealing with a drugged, confused accident victim. Marcus explained as we finalized our strategy. She has no idea we've uncovered her entire conspiracy. We're going to let her believe she's won, and then we're going to watch her hang herself. The first phase began when Richard Hawthorne returned to my hospital room exactly 48 hours after his initial visit, smug confidence radiating from his expensive suit. Mr. Chen, he said, settling into the visitor's chair, I trust you've had time to consider Mrs. Chen's generous offer. I looked appropriately defeated, slumped against my pillows with the signed divorce papers in my trembling hands. This isn't fair, but I don't have a choice, do I? Hawthorne's smile was predatory. You're making the smart decision. Mrs. Chen will be pleased. There's just one thing, I said, my voice weak and uncertain. I need to transfer some assets before the divorce is finalized. Business obligations, you understand. Nothing that affects the settlement. What kind of transfers? I need to move about $8 million from our business accounts to cover pending contracts and payroll. It's all legitimate. You can review the documentation. Hawthorne nodded dismissively. As long as it doesn't affect Mrs. Chen's settlement percentage, proceed as needed. What Hawthorne didn't know, what Sarah didn't know, was that those transfers were part of Marcus's carefully orchestrated trap. We weren't hiding money. We were creating irresistible bait. Phase 2 began 3 days later when I was discharged from the hospital. Sarah was waiting in our driveway when I arrived home, her face a perfect mask of concerned wife. David, sweetheart, she said, rushing to help me out of Marcus's car. You look terrible. Are you sure you should be out of the hospital?" "The doctor said I'd recover faster at home," I replied, leaning heavily on my crutch. "I missed you, Sarah. I missed us." Her performance was Oscar-worthy. Tears in her eyes, gentle touches, worried questions about my pain medication. If I hadn't known she'd tried to murder me, I would have been completely convinced. "I brought your favorite soup from Morrison's Deli," she said, bustling around the kitchen. "And I picked up your prescriptions. The doctor said it's important to stay ahead of the pain." She handed me a bottle of OxyContin with a helpful smile. If Marcus and I hadn't been recording everything, I might have taken those pills that I was certain contained far more than the prescribed dosage. "Actually, I'm trying to cut back on the pain medication," I said. "The hospital gave me enough to last a few days." For just a moment I saw frustration flash across her features before the concerned wife mask returned. "Of course, honey, you know best." Phase 3 was the masterpiece. That evening, Sarah brought up the divorce papers with practiced reluctance. "David, I know this is difficult, but Richard says we need to finalize the paperwork soon, for tax purposes." "I signed them," I said quietly. Marcus looked them over and said they were fair. "Marcus, you hired an attorney?" "Just for advice. He said you were being more than generous." Relief flooded her face. "I'm glad you understand. I just want us both to be happy, even if we can't be happy together." "There's something I need to tell you," I continued, following Marcus's script perfectly. "I've been thinking about what you said about me drinking too much, being reckless. You were right. The accident was my fault." Sarah's eyes lit up with victory, though she tried to hide it behind a mask of sympathy. "Oh, David, don't blame yourself. Accidents happen." "No, Sarah. I was drunk. I was irresponsible. I could have killed someone." I paused for dramatic effect. "I'm going to turn myself into the police tomorrow. Take responsibility for what I did." The mask slipped completely. For a split second, I saw pure panic in her eyes before she recovered. "David, that's very noble, but you don't need to. I do need to, and I want to make sure you're taken care of before I face the consequences. I'm transferring an additional $5 million to your account tomorrow. Insurance money, business assets, everything. If I'm going to prison, at least you'll be secure." It was a lie, of course, but Sarah didn't know that. All she heard was that her victim was about to confess to drunk driving and hand over millions more than she'd dared hope for. "David, you don't have to." "I want to. It's the least I can do after putting you through this nightmare." That night, Sarah made her fatal mistake. She called Tommy Rodriguez. Marcus's surveillance team recorded the entire conversation from the van parked across the street. "Tommy, it's Sarah. We need to talk. David's about to go to the police and confess to drunk driving. You need to stick to our story. You never talked to me. You were just drunk and hit him randomly. Can you do that?" Rodriguez, apparently sobered by several days in jail, was having second thoughts. "Lady, I don't know about this. If they find out you paid me to hit your husband, they won't find out anything if you keep your mouth shut. I'm transferring another $10,000 to your account tonight. That's on top of the $20 you already received. All you have to do is plead guilty to drunk driving and serve your time. Don't mention my name. Don't mention our arrangement. And you'll be set when you get out. And if I don't," Sarah's voice turned ice cold, Then you'll spend the rest of your life in prison for attempted murder. Your choice, Tommy." The recording was crystal clear. Sarah had just confessed to conspiracy, attempted murder, and witness tampering on a wire that would be admissible in court. Phase 4 began the next morning, when Detective Lisa Martinez arrived at our house with a warrant for Sarah's arrest. "Sarah Chen," Detective Martinez announced as Sarah opened the front door. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and witness tampering." The look of shock and confusion on Sarah's face was genuine. She'd thought she was moments away from inheriting millions and watching her husband take the blame for his own attempted murder. "What? This is insane. David, tell them this is a mistake." I stood in the doorway, no longer needing the crutch, no longer playing the role of confused victim. The only mistake was thinking you could drug me, hire someone to run me down, and steal everything I've built over 15 years. "David, I don't know what you're talking about," Detective Martinez interrupted. "Ma'am, we have recorded phone conversations, bank records, security footage, and physical evidence linking you to a conspiracy to murder your husband. You have the right to remain silent." As the handcuffs clicked into place, Sarah's carefully constructed mask finally cracked completely. "You bastard!" she screamed at me. "You were supposed to die. I planned everything perfectly." And there it was, the final confession, recorded by Detective Martinez's body camera, and heard by 3 police officers, 2 FBI agents, and a very satisfied criminal defense attorney. Marcus stepped out from behind the police van, adjusting his tie with the satisfaction of a man who just won the case of his career. "Sarah," he said conversationally, "you should have hired a better lawyer." The trial of Sarah Chen became one of Portland's most sensational criminal cases in decades. The evidence was so overwhelming that Sarah's defense team tried every possible strategy to avoid a guilty verdict. First, they claimed temporary insanity, arguing that Sarah had suffered a psychological break due to marital stress. That fell apart when Marcus presented evidence of her months-long planning process and the methodical way she'd executed each phase of her scheme. Then they tried to blame Tommy Rodriguez, painting Sarah as another victim who had been manipulated by a dangerous criminal. That strategy collapsed when Rodriguez, facing life in prison, took a plea deal and testified about every detail of Sarah's plan, including the recorded phone calls and the $30,000 in payments she'd made. Finally, they attempted to portray the entire thing as an elaborate hoax, claiming I had staged my own attempted murder to frame an innocent woman. District Attorney Jennifer Walsh destroyed that theory by presenting the timeline of evidence, the security footage, and most damaging of all, Sarah's own recorded confessions. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," D.A. Walsh said in her closing argument, "this wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a desperate act by a troubled woman. This was a cold, calculated, months-long conspiracy to commit murder for financial gain. Sarah Chen drugged her husband, hired a drunk driver to kill him, and then tried to blame the victim for his own attempted murder. She showed no remorse, no guilt, no human compassion, only anger that her perfect plan had failed. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, attempted murder in the first degree, insurance fraud, witness tampering, and racketeering. Judge Patricia Reynolds sentenced Sarah to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. "Mrs. Chen," Judge Reynolds said before pronouncing sentence, "in 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such a callous and premeditated attempt to destroy another human being. You didn't just try to kill your husband. You tried to destroy his reputation, steal his life's work, and leave him remembered as a reckless, drunk driver. The depth of your betrayal is matched only by the thoroughness of your planning. This court sentences you to life in prison, and I hope you spend every day of that sentence reflecting on the life you threw away for money." Sarah showed no emotion during sentencing. Even in defeat, she maintained the cold composure that had nearly made her a successful murderer. Tommy Rodriguez received 15 years for vehicular assault and conspiracy, with eligibility for parole in 8 years. His cooperation with prosecutors and genuine remorse for his actions worked in his favor. Richard Hawthorne was disbarred and received 5 years for obstruction of justice and conspiracy to commit fraud. His law firm collapsed within weeks of his arrest, but the most satisfying justice was yet to come. 3 months after Sarah's conviction, I received a letter at my office. The return address was Oregon State Penitentiary. "David, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know something. I'm not writing to apologize. We both know it's too late for that. I'm writing because I finally understand what I threw away. For 15 years, you loved me completely. You trusted me with your business, your dreams, your life. You never once questioned my loyalty or suspected my motives. Even when I was planning to kill you, you were worried about my happiness, my security, my future. I had everything. A man who adored me, a business we built together, a life most people can only dream of. And I threw it all away because I wanted more. I wanted everything, and I was willing to kill for it. The irony isn't lost on me. In trying to steal your life, I destroyed my own. In trying to frame you as a reckless drunk, I became the real monster. In trying to make you look like a victim of your own poor choices, I became a victim of mine. You were always the better person, David. Even now, even after everything I did, you haven't tried to humiliate me publicly or turn this into a media circus. You just wanted justice, and you got it. I hope someday you can find someone who appreciates what I was too selfish and stupid to value. You deserve happiness, David. You always did." Sarah, I read the letter twice, then filed it away. Not because I forgave her. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness, but because it represented closure. The woman who'd tried to kill me finally understood what she'd lost. 6 months later, I was back to running Chen Digital Solutions full-time. The company had not only survived the scandal, but actually grown stronger. Our clients appreciated the transparency we'd shown throughout the legal process, and several competitors' customers had switched to us, citing trust and integrity as deciding factors. Marcus became both my personal attorney and close friend. We met monthly for dinner, and he never tired of hearing me thank him for saving my life. "You saved your own life," he always replied. "I just helped you prove it in court." Dr. Elena Peterson and I stayed in touch as well. She'd testified at Sarah's trial about the drugging, and her professional integrity had been crucial to securing the conviction. Nurse Maria Santos received a $50,000 bonus and a letter of recommendation that helped her get accepted into the physician assistant program she'd been dreaming of pursuing. A year after the trial, I was contacted by Detective Martinez with an unexpected update. "David, I thought you'd want to know," she said during our phone call. "We've linked Sarah's methods to 2 other unsolved cases from different states. Looks like you weren't her first victim, just the first one who survived and fought back." The revelation was chilling but not entirely surprising. Sarah's plan had been too sophisticated, too detailed for a first attempt. Are there going to be additional charges? Federal charges are likely. The FBI is building a case for a multi-state murder conspiracy. Sarah may never see the outside of a prison cell. "Good," I said, and meant it. 2 years after Sarah's conviction, I was featured on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine with the headline, "The CEO Who Came Back from the Dead. How David Chen Rebuilt His Life After His Wife's Murder Plot." The article detailed not just the criminal case, but the business lessons I'd learned about trust, verification, and the importance of maintaining professional boundaries, even in personal relationships. The hardest lesson, I told the interviewer, wasn't about business or legal protection. It was about accepting that someone you love completely can hate you enough to want you dead. But the more important lesson was that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about refusing to let evil people destroy your faith in humanity. Today, Chen Digital Solutions employs over 200 people and has expanded into 3 states. We specialize in cybersecurity for small businesses, and our company motto is trust but verify. A lesson learned the hardest way possible. I never remarried, though I've dated occasionally. Trust doesn't come easily after someone tries to murder you. But I'm working on it with the help of an excellent therapist. Sarah is serving her sentence at Oregon State Penitentiary. She was denied parole at her first hearing last year and won't be eligible again until 2031. The additional federal charges related to the other murders are still pending. Sometimes people ask if I hate her. The honest answer is no. Hatred would give her power over me that she doesn't deserve. Instead, I feel something closer to pity. Sarah Chen had everything, and threw it away for money she'll never spend, and freedom she'll never enjoy. She tried to destroy my life and ended up destroying her own. That's not revenge. That's justice. And sometimes, justice is the most satisfying outcome of all.